Okay, we're down to item number 4, public comment. Did anyone sign up for public comment today? Okay, we don't have any public comment. On to number 5, financial report. Neely? Welcome, Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
You got it? Yeah.
All right, I have now shared my financial status report, and you should see that on the screen. I would highlight that these materials were updated yesterday, and the website was updated yesterday. So if you have visited these materials previously, you want to refresh once you open those to make sure you're getting the latest version. As of February 29th, 2024, the board's available and committed balances are as follows. In the secondary fund, you have a cash balance of approximately $39.2 million, a committed earmark but not dispersed balance of roughly $30.3 million, and an uncommitted balance of roughly $8.9 million. In the revolving development account, you have a cash balance of roughly $35.9 million, a committed balance of $33 million, a loan principal outstanding of roughly $19 million, and an uncommitted balance of $2.9 million. In the water management account, you have a cash balance of roughly $291 million, total obligated funds of roughly $257 million, and unobligated funds of roughly $33.5 million. Taken together, those 3 accounts of yours, you have a total committed earmarked but not dispersed balance of roughly $320 million, a total loan principal outstanding of approximately $19 million, and a total uncommitted unobligated balance of roughly $45.3 million. And then I just wanted to highlight here your ARPA balance. Again, committed per House Bill 769 of $100 million, and you've committed per Senate Bill 1181 approximately $25 million. And then there you've expended roughly $76.4 million. You've obligated about $88.9 million. And then there you can see that negative balance. That's the unobligated of your ARPA. It's what you're still waiting on some disbursements. You'll get the $25 million that should come shortly, and then another $50 million on July 1. And with that there, I've also included a couple other notes, but I won't speak to those today. And with that, I would stand for any questions.
Okay, board members, questions for Neely? Neely, was that 25 million, there was a supplemental, does that become available immediately, or does that become available on July 1st?
I believe it's going to be coming sooner than July 1st, but I don't know the date it'll become effective.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, before we leave the finance report, I just wanted to follow up on a couple of comments Garrick made yesterday about the appropriations bills. So Garrick mentioned that there was a maintenance budget and then a maintenance appropriation and then a trailer appropriation. Maintenance appropriation was Senate Bill 1269, and then there was a follow-on appropriation, Senate Bill 1411. And that's something new that the legislature has done this year. So the maintenance appropriation is intended to keep the lights on and the rent paid. And then all of the add-ons or extras come through the trailer appropriation. So between both of those have passed at this point, and between the two, they include all the items that were in the governor's proposed budget for the agency, including restoration of the reverted $25.5 million in ARP funds that was just discussed. And those should be made available shortly after the governor signs the bills, or the bill, and as soon as the controller's office can make that happen. That also includes the reappropriation authority for ARPA funds for the water board, so that doesn't happen again. The funds get reverted. Also, the It includes the next scheduled tranche of $50 million in ARPA funds and includes the $30 million appropriation to the water management account. Also includes the $716,000 funds transfer that comes from the board's revolving development account into the department's budget to pay for aquifer monitoring and modeling, excuse me. It includes the adjudication filing fee language that allows the general fund money spent on the adjudications to count toward the filing fees for adjudication claims filed by either the governor for the rights the governor holds in the Northern Lakes or for the Water Resource Board for either rights the board holds in lakes like Bear Lake or minimum stream flow rights. That includes the other smaller items, replacement items, and the change in employee compensation. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that folks may have about the budget appropriations.
Okay, questions for Brian? Okay, all right. Next item, Anderson Ranch Dam Race update. Welcome, Cynthia.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Brian Horsborough, who you've met before and has reported to you on this project before, has joined us this morning to give you a briefing. He, again, is the Deputy Area Manager for the Reclamation Snake River Area Office. And following his update to you, I'm going to talk through a resolution that's available in your workbooks to address the need to extend a memorandum of agreement that the board executed back in 2018 with Reclamation. So we'll talk in more details about that after his briefing, but I'll invite Brian to speak to you.
Good morning, Brian. Welcome.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Do I have to turn this on? It's on. It's on. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's a pleasure to be with you today, as always. I'm joined today by Chris Heath, who is our Senior Project Manager on the Dam Raise project, sitting back here. My update this morning will focus on our progress on two aspects: the design packages and environmental compliance. So with respect to the designs, we have made good progress. The reservoir rim projects reached 60% design milestone in January of this year. Also for the rim projects, we completed what we call our constructability reviews in February. This is a very important exercise that we complete to identify any constructability issues related with the designs. With respect to the dam raise, the 60% designs are expected to be delivered in May. We have experienced some unforeseen complexities during the design process, and the design has taken a couple of months longer than we had originally anticipated. But frankly, technical delays on projects of this magnitude are not necessarily unexpected, especially given that the original construction occurred nearly 75 years ago. So maybe stated another way, I think we're comfortable with the couple month delay just to make sure that they get the designs correct. Overall, the plan is to provide a more detailed summary, total project cost estimates, project estimated schedule within the next couple of months. And we're looking forward to sharing those details with the board when they're ready. Moving on to environmental compliance, we have worked with Idaho Water Resource Board staff to prepare a modification to the 2018 MOA with the Idaho Water Resource Board and Reclamation. If you'll recall, that's the MOA to conduct the original feasibility study and environmental compliance. That particular modification will extend the MOA by 2 years and also provide an updated budget estimate to complete the supplemental draft EIS and to get to a record of decision. And I know Cynthia will talk to you a little bit more about that here shortly. So similar to what Lainey Paquin reported at the last meeting, our subject matter experts continue to work on a few outstanding questions to help educate the supplemental draft EIS. And I know of great interest to the board, of course, is the water mitigation strategy for any shortage in storage resulting from reservoir restriction during construction. An initial analysis has been prepared. We briefed our regional director on that yesterday. And we're working with the Idaho Water Resource Board staff to develop a strategy for sharing that more broadly in the coming months. And again, we're very much looking forward to sharing that strategy with you here shortly. In terms of the supplemental draft EIS schedule, we expect to have the necessary information to restart that analysis within the next couple of months. Again, that water mitigation strategy was a key component of that. So now that we've got over that hump, we're close to getting the EIS reinitiated. And in closing, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I just want to again thank the Idaho Water Resource Board staff that we've been working with on this project. They're a tremendous group of people, and our mutual success on this dam raise would not have been achievable without them. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Brian? Okay, with these minor delays that you've just described, are we still on schedule for construction to start the fall of 25?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. One final question. Where's your wandering area manager? Is she due to come back to town?
So, Mr. Chairman, Laney has taken a 120-day temporary detail as the assistant regional director with our office down in California. So she's working on Klamath issues as we speak.
Yeah. Okay. But she's still keeping a finger in this pie as well.
She is
isn't
still keeping her finger in the pot. I talk to her quite frequently.
Okay, great. Tell her hi for us.
Will do.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go ahead and share those materials again. All right. And again, this is a resolution that we have, like the board to consider today related to the memorandum of agreement that Brian just mentioned. I'll go ahead and go straight to the therefore be it resolved, so we can talk about this further. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Oops, I think I jumped to a different spot, so let me go back down. It did. Okay. Well, all right, we'll stop there. So again, this is a memorandum of agreement that, as Brian mentioned, was initiated the feasibility process to evaluate storage in the Boise River Basin. There have been a couple of modifications to that MOA along the way as the scope evolved and the additional financing was needed. In this case, if you recall, the feasibility study was completed, but there were some concerns with the draft EIS relative to the level of potential impact to potential space holders during the construction phase of the project. And so the board worked closely with Reclamation, also in response to some concerns from water users, to determine how additional analysis could be completed to reduce the uncertainty and to determine whether those impacts could be reduced or the level of mitigation could be reduced. Reclamation identified a process for moving forward that allowed the board and Reclamation to maintain the WIN Act authorizations to complete the feasibility study on time and to initiate the contract to move forward with post-feasibility study activities. So those are activities including final design and on through construction. And that agreement, of course, I think you're aware, the cost share associated with that agreement is roughly an 89% cost share for the non-federal partner, that's the board, and 11% for the federal partner. But in order to allow Reclamation to move forward with enough of that final design work to gain that information related to operations during construction, we maintained the original memorandum of agreement and effectively put a pause on that environmental compliance activity. So after the draft EIS, Reclamation held some of that ongoing environmental compliance work in order to wait for this additional design information. As Brian mentioned, Reclamation is prepared to move forward with that process. It is now effectively a supplemental environmental impact statement because of the new information that's been gathered through this design effort, and they are prepared to continue moving that forward. So the MOA that was originally signed requires a 50-50 cost share between the board and Reclamation, and it technically expires here at the end of March. So the action before you today is to extend the contract end date on that on the MOA, and to authorize some additional funding for expenditure towards those activities. The Reclamation has estimated that an upward bound of the estimated cost to complete the EIS work will be $950,000. And again, 50% of that would be the responsibility of the board. So the resolution for you then authorizes the board to commit up to $475,000. We have reviewed the possibility of applying ARPA funding to this funding commitment, and our legal staff has determined that that is reasonable. So that is identified in the resolution here under row 82. And the resolution also authorizes the board to extend the MOA with Reclamation to extend that end date, and authorizes the board to execute the chairman or his designee to execute that necessary agreement, the MOA. I'll stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any questions for Cynthia on the resolution? Brian? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll proceed to vote. This will be a roll call vote. Wesley?
Ms. Cole-Hansen,
Aye.
Mrs. Gibbs. Aye. Mr. McMahon. Aye. Mr. Olmstead. Aye. Aye. Mr. Van Stowe.
Aye.
Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, anything else?
All right, that's all we have for you today. Thank you.
Okay, good work. Okay, next on the list, agenda item 7, Priest Lake Dam modification update.
Morrison, give us an update on that.
Okay, welcome, Mike. Happy
Well,
times.
Mr. Chairman, board members, and Director Weaver, it's very good here today to be here today, especially when I pretty much got all good news for a change. So I feel pretty good about that. This right here is Dylan Weimer. I don't know if you've all met him, but he's one of our new engineers, and he's been doing a lot of good work on a couple of projects, including this one. And in fact, in the near future, I'm going to be passing on facility manager duties for this project to Dylan. So I'd like you to meet Dylan, and like I say, if you see him, please say hi. He's a good guy to get to know. So, as I said before, the news with Priest Lake is all pretty good. Wes, we've got a presentation here. Do you think you could bring that up?
Well, that's coming up. Welcome, Dylan. Glad to have you on board. Perhaps you're the reason that everything's going so well right now.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm not so sure about that, but
Okay, all right.
thank you.
I gave it to Jennifer, so I'm assuming that's where she put it.
Very. It's like in the appendices.
So anyway, while we're bringing that up, I understand that we've got our next meeting is going to be up in Sandpoint. And I think we're trying to put together a little bit of a field trip to go out there so you can see what we've done out there, and you can see a finished dam without a whole bunch of junk in the middle of the river. And I think you'll enjoy that. I know a couple of you have been up there and seen it while the project was still going on, but it'd be nice to see it when it's kind of done. So here we've got a picture of a completed dam. All the work on that dam is complete. Okay. What we're doing at this point is restoring the landowners, the adjacent landowners' property to its condition from before we started this project 4 years ago. So we're doing that. There's a little bit of grass that still has to be planted, some trees that have to be planted. And the only thing we're waiting for on that is just making sure the weather is right. The person the landscaper we've got coming out to do it has said that if it's too cold, the grass isn't gonna grow and things like that. So that's all we're waiting on there. We've also got a couple of other odds and ends that we're doing. One is, of course, we've got to finish all the paperwork and make sure that North Bank and Mott McDonald get paid. So we're finishing out their contracts. And we have some piezometers, vibrating wire piezometers that we've installed underneath the dam that we're monitoring. We are working with Mott McDonald to establish a baseline for what that data should look like so that we can come back and monitor it and say, hey, is there something going wrong under the dam there, so that we can monitor that for the next many, many years. The sort of piezometer we've got should last a good long time. So anyway, so that's that is the good news. I think that's everything I've got on that page. So next is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be updating the O&M plan. It's been a long time since the O&M plan has been updated. We're gonna go through, update it, and that's gonna be kind of in conjunction with stuff that we're doing on the Dvorak Dam as well. We're gonna make sure that our project up there, we're gonna come up with facilities, just an approach to how we're gonna manage facilities in the near future. So that's something he's gonna be very, very involved. Archive the as-built drawings from this project, make sure that they're available. So in the future, if work needs to be done on the dam, that information is all out there where they can find it. We were limited to one roll, a little tiny roll of 1978 blue lines. That's all the information we have when we get into this. Hopefully we can pass on the future. We've got a couple of minor electrical upgrades that we want to do to it. They're going to be under $10,000, quite a bit under 10,000. The electrical panel, this stuff out here is out of date. It is also kind of out of code. I mean, it's out of code. We've got to go through and bring it up to code. The operators use these portable motors to operate the gates, and the electrical system pops off periodically. I don't think this is going to take a whole lot of work to bring it up to speed. Dylan and I have spent a little bit of time sizing what needs to be done. So that's something that we're going to be doing. I think we can do that with O&M. We probably won't be back asking you for more money. And then we've got one of the property owners who's near there has been very, very concerned about the safety on the dam. He's pointed out, he sent me a lot of pictures of people playing on the dam. We've got people who come out there for fishing, swimming, all kinds of other things. And we want to investigate what it's going to take to make the dam safer. At a minimum, I think we need to do a better job with the signs that are out there on the dam, making sure people know where the danger spots are, making sure they know it's danger. I will say that dam evidently has been used for recreation for a very long time. There are a lot of stories. Yeah, we used to go out there and do all these things on the dam. And, so we want to make sure that we keep that safe. Landowner there is really, that's all the updates I've got on Priest Lake. Do I have any questions from the board?
The chairman. Mike, the gates now, the operator, still use that power tool? Electric. That's the way it's gonna be for a while, huh?
Yeah, Mr. Raybould, Mr. Vanstone, we've got two of those tools. Actually, one of them recently burnt out. It actually is, it's a pretty high-tech device. It's what we use for it. We got two of them. It turns out that they actually are quite oversized for the job, but they are something that works, and it works very well. It's just that it blows the circuit breakers every other. But yes, we're planning on still using that.
Pretty efficient though, we get it done.
They work really well. Previous to that, we had a hand wheel. Still got the hand wheel as a backup. If I were running that hand wheel every day, I'd be fine. bigger buffer guy than I did, so. So anyway, that's better.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman, Mike, so the piezometers that are under the dam, are those in a stilling well or a conduit of some kind, or are they monitoring the, water flow under the dam, or what you're looking at?
So Mr. Raybould, Mr. Olmstead, one of the things, originally, you're probably aware this is going to be a dam raise to help better manage the water. We have the study done. One of the things that came out in the study is that the dam is very marginal as far as its ability to be stable. I know it would seem like a big concrete structure like that would stay put, but the only thing keeping that dam in place is gravity. If you get water pressure underneath it, it can cause it to basically hydroplane and pressure from height to push it along. So the slab, the dam apron slab, the armor stone, that's all there to wedge that thing in place. What the piezometers do is they monitor the water pressure beneath the dam. There is an existing sheet pile wall under the dam, but it's made out of steel. It will corrode someday. When it corrodes to the point that water is getting under it, we want to know it. So that's what those are for. Piezometers are, and cables are actually a few feet underneath the dam where they can monitor the pressure right in a layer of sand that we've got. Did I answer your question, sir?
Questions? A couple of three things, Mike. We're going to put signage up there. We probably ought to have legal review that, what the signs say and where they're placed. So we then create a loophole.
You're very right, and we have got people on it, and I can't remember her name. I understand we've got a very new attorney there.
This electrical, I have a similar panel. She said, get rid of it. It's not good at all. We did have conversations about automating at least 2 or 3 of the gates so that you could operate those at least from the side of the dam and not out on the dam. Did we do anything beyond just talk about that?
Mr. Raybould, not at this time. We haven't. That's something that was interesting in bringing. That would be a difficult.
Chairman, I know we talked about it before. I don't think it's ever put into the plan.
I wonder when the dust settles a little bit, if we should review that. And, I don't know what remote control options might be available, but at least if you could just walk up to a control box and unlock it and touch an actuator switch rather than lugging that motor out on the catwalk to a particular gate to operate it, that might be easier for the operator.
I agree, and I think that especially during the winter, the first thing they have to do is clear a path all the way out there. And dam operators are. By the way, as long as we're talking about the dam operators, that one of our 2 dam operators is going to have to leave us here. Who's flat it.
I think that covers my. Good job. To be complimented. You came into this at a moment when you probably wish that somebody else's problem. You handled it very well, and at least this board member is tickled that this project is complete.
I appreciate it, Mr. Raybould, and I am really tickled.
Okay, all right. Anything else on Freaks Lake? Okay.
I just stay up there for the next item.
Oh, okay. Mountain Home Airport Pay. Project.
So I'd like to introduce a couple of gentlemen who are helping us with this. We've got Nick Smith. Nick Smith is running our design design team at Stantec that is designing the project. And he's gonna pretty soon have to get back to get that design. We're in the middle of a 60% design review on that right now. So we're other fellow, Eric Schulte, is from IMCO construction. IMCO and Stantec are a partner on this. You know, he's from IMCO and he's very active in the project now. Really busy. And we're still on track to begin construction by next year. So anyway, I just wanted to introduce you to these guys. If you see them around here, please introduce yourselves to them and talk to them. A wealth of information about the details of the project. And they have to date, IMCO and Stantec have been excellent. Questions for?
Questions? Hey, thank you for being here today, gentlemen. You've got Mike's confidence, you've got ours. Okay, good luck.
So, okay, a couple of things. Also, it's pretty much, I'm not going to say unalloyed good news, but most of good news with respect to the project here. Coming along on schedule. Like I said before, we've got our 60% design review going on right now. A few weeks ago, we learned that the instantaneous diversion rate is going to be available to the project from our water right was going to be pretty low during the winter. We're fine in the summer, it's just the instantaneous water right during the winter. There's plenty of water out there. We're filling some tanks at Mountain Home Air Force Base, so it just means the pumps have to go longer. But with the instantaneous water right that low, it meant that the pumps that we've got are too big to keep pumping that low. So we had to make some modifications. Those were variable frequency drives. Those of you who dealt with Idaho Power on variable frequency drives know that VFDs create a lot of harmonics, so you got to put some filters in place. So there was quite a bit of additional electrical work that we needed to do on that. Another issue had to do with the cleaning of the screens that are out in the reservoir. The plan was to use a screen cleaning system that, as you turn the pumps on, brought the water in. It was a little self-powered turbine. So the water coming on in through the pump inlet was going to run a turbine that was going to keep algae and crud and clog a muscle. Okay. We're not actually sure. Well, we hope it'll keep clog a muscle. Okay. Turns out that the flow rate.
I would like to not ever find out.
Me too, sir. Yeah. So we had to redesign that as well. So the total redesign was about $350,502 is the change order that we negotiated with these guys back here. And I'm not asking you for more money. You've already allocated about $40 million for this project. But it turns out the contract gives Mr. Patton spending authority for about $100,000. So what we're asking for in the attached resolution is really for Mr. Patton to have spending authority to spend $300,502 on the change order. So any before I continue, any questions about the change order?
Mike, what size of motors are they down there? You putting drives on? How big is it?
I really don't know, but I'll bet, you know how big the motors are that we're putting on the
350 horsepower.
How many drives will have to be?
Are you talking about the new drives to clean?
Or I'm not talking about the pumps. The
the
pump
pumps.
drives. How many drives you have to put on the pumps?
We are putting 2 on it. And there's actually, we're putting 2 or 3, right? 3, yeah. Okay, there's 3 pumps there. Really, we only need 2. One is a spare. And so each one's going to get a VFD. At one point, we were talking about just having 2 with VFDs. Just remember the wintertime flow can be accomplished with just 1. So we were looking at that, but glad you gentlemen showed up.
Okay, any other questions?
Chairman,
Yes.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve this resolution on the Mountain Home
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? Being none, proceed to vote. Do we have a roll call vote?
Ms. Cole-Hansen.
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs.
Aye.
Mr. McMahon.
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead.
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Chairman and Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay.
That, I've got a little bit more, mostly good news. Easements and rights of way have been very challenging. Okay, and about a week ago, or up until really last Thursday, the biggest challenge that we had was Simplot Company. Easement. They wanted us to help them out, get some wells and a bunch of other stuff, and it was turning into quite an involved project. Frankly, the terms of any agreement that we were going to have to come up with going to be both a risk for the board and a risk for. We have a lot of people help out with that, pitch in. Wes's group of folks, Wes in particular, Megan, Carter, tirelessly on this thing. And then, of course, we've got Justin over here. He's kind of been my right-hand man with it. He's been very helpful. I just wanted to point those folks out. They've been doing excellent work, and without them, I don't think we would have gotten to this point with Simplot. Simplot the other day agreed to just a straight cash deal. So we're still hammering that out, still finishing all the details, but I expect it to be done.
Okay. Sounds good.
So really, that is all I've got for you folks. If you've got any questions about the project for me or for folks from Stantec,
Any questions on the basic project? Keep up the good work.
thank you very much, and I appreciate all your support.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. Real cool.
Then the rental procedures and appointments. I think there's perhaps multiple resolutions under the side that we have to approve.
Morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So yesterday I introduced some amended rental pool procedures for Water Districts 01 Upper Snake, Water District 65 Payette, and Water District 65K Lake Fort Creek. And today I have 5 resolutions. One is going to be for the Upper Snake for their amended rental pool procedures, as well as their 5-year reappointments. And then I'll go through each of the next ones as soon as we have those materials up in front of us. He scrolled us to the resolution. Would anybody like to discuss before we get into the resolution for Water District 01, the actual clean procedures that they have adopted for their rental pool?
Anybody have any questions on the Water District 01 rental procedures that we discussed yesterday? Director, you okay?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I've reviewed the procedures, accompanying applications, and I would recommend adoption.
So this resolution, now therefore be resolved, Advisory Committee for Water District 1 For the Upper Snake, be reappointed as a local committee for a period of 5 years from the date of this resolution or until amended or revoked. And also now therefore be it further resolved that the amended Upper Snake rental pool procedures are approved by
Board members, we have a resolution.
Did this cover all the resolutions?
No, this is just for one set of Water District 01 procedures and advisory.
Chairman, I go ahead and move that we approve this resolution as stated here.
Is there a second? Okay. Been moved and seconded. A motion to adopt Water District 01 rental pool procedures and appoint the committee of 9 as the local advisory. Any discussion? Okay. I think this could be. Okay, we'll just do a voice vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to the next one.
The second resolution that I'm introducing is for Water District 63 Boise River Rental Pool. They did not amend their procedures this year. This resolution right here at line 13, now therefore be resolved that the advisory committee for Water District 63 Boise River be reappointed as a local committee for the Boise River Rental Pool, and it be effective for a period of 5 years from the date of this resolution until amended or revoked by action of the Idaho Water Resources.
Board members, we have a resolution before. us.
Chairman, I move we approve the basic 63 rental pool rules.
Okay. This is just for the committee.
This is just for the committee, yes, sir.
For the committee then.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt, to appoint the local committee for District 63. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next portion of this is going to be for Water District 65. The first part, this is their clean amended rental pool procedures. And then it present the resolution to adopt those procedures as well as the reappointment. If any of you would like to discuss their clean adopted procedures.
Okay, Director Weaver, do you have any comments on the amendments to the procedures?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say I appreciate Water Master Neil Shippey working with our legal staff and with Mary to get a set of rules that I'm comfortable with. I've been through them and attached application forms, and I would recommend that. Procedures, I'm sorry.
Well, you're still new. Okay, all right. Let's take a look at that resolution and see if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So starting on line 16, now therefore be resolved that the advisory committee for Water District 65 Payette River be reappointed as a local committee for Payette River Rental Pool. This appointment would be for a period of 5 years from the date of this resolution or until amended or revoked by action of the board. And as well as now therefore be further resolved that the amended Payette River Rental Pool procedures are approved by the Idaho Water Resources Board.
Okay, board members, we have a resolution before us to appoint the local committee for Water District 65 and to approve their amended rental pool procedures.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve this resolution for Water District 65.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Okay.
This next item up is for Water District 65K Lake Ford Creek. I have before you their clean adopted rental pool procedures. Would you like to discuss these before we go into the resolution?
Director Weaver, did you have a chance to look at the markup?
Mr. Chairman, I did, and I think Mary did a good job working with these folks to get procedures in place that we can. So
Let's look at the.
Resolution beginning on line 16, now therefore be resolved that the advisory committee for water district number 65K is reappointed as local committee for Lake Fork rental pool. This reappointment is effective for a period of 5 years from the date of this resolution or until amended or revoked by action of the Water Resource Board. Continuing on line 21, now therefore be further resolved that their amended Lake Fork Creek rental pool procedures be approved by the Idaho Water Resource Board.
Okay, board members, we have a resolution before us to appoint a committee for the Lake Fork Creek rental pool and to adopt their amended rental pool procedures. Motion to adopt. I would make that motion. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
One more. This is going to be for Water District 74 Lemhi River Basin. And this is just a 5-year reappointment beginning on line 13. Now therefore be resolved, the advisory committee for Water District 74 Lemhi River be reappointed as local committee for the Lemhi River Basin rental pool. This appointment is effective for a period of 5 years from the date of this resolution or until amended, revoked by action.
Okay, board members, before us, we have a resolution to reappoint the local committee for the Lemhi River Basin rental pool. Is there a motion to adopt?
I so move.
Okay, is there a second? Any discussion on the motion? Being none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Very good. Mary, you did great.
Thank you.
Okay?
Easy.
There have been times when there's been a lot more discussion on the rental pool procedures than today, so.
Correct. I was anticipating a couple of questions, but we're great. Thanks.
Between the refinement of the procedures over the years and good work by the local committees. Okay, we will take a 10-minute break. Okay.
Okay, we'll reconvene the meeting. We're now at agenda item 10, a regional water sustainability project priority list. Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just would like to highlight that at the end of my brief update, you'll be asked to consider a resolution to update the regional water sustainability priority list. You'll recall you've been working on that regional water sustainability priority list going back to 2021, and that the purpose of the list is to help guide the board's spending for large regional water sustainability projects from ARPA funds and state general funds. And according to the criteria adopted by the board back in 2022, projects on the regional water sustainability list must help achieve water supply sustainability on a regional, basin-wide, or statewide basis. And again, as I mentioned, the board has adopted criteria for the inclusion of projects on the list. At the March 21st, 2024 Finance Committee, staff discussed proposed updates to the list with the committee, and the committee recommended the board consider the attached updates. And with that, I have a resolution. And I'm just going to jump to the list real quick and highlight it here. And you can see that we've changed it from landscape to portraits and kind of added some additional information here. And again, these are proposed projects in the top. These are projects that you may consider funding. And then all those projects that you have funded and that are underway have been moved down to projects under development. And you can see these listed here. And this is actually the most extensive portion of the list now. Yeah. So with that, I would go to the resolution and stand for any questions or comments.
Okay, any questions for Neely on the list? Question? No questions, Neely. Let's look at the resolution. Oh, I do have a question. Brian.
Should have read these sooner, but so the feasibility study for raising Minnedoka Dam, has the Bureau already been on board with that, or?
Mr.
Sorry,
Patton, could you answer that?
I can answer that question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Olmstead, is, you remember there was quite a bit of work done back about 15 years ago now on looking at raising Minnedoka Dam. The intent there would be ultimately to try and use that work that was done back then and move it to a full feasibility study that would include both the engineering aspects as well as the environmental aspects and operational aspects. There appears as if there may be a window to get that done through Congressman Simpson's office, but that's certainly far from a guarantee.
Yeah. Well, I'm fine with being on the list. I just hadn't, first time I'd seen it, there's.
Yeah, there's been some renewed interest in that, particularly from, the Twin Falls Canal Company, Igwe, and others, in looking at that as a potential source of water.
Okay, Joanne?
Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee did thoroughly vet the two projects added to the list and made a recommendation to the whole board to add the projects permanently to the list. And stating that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution.
Okay, let's scroll down to the resolution, Neely, or up. Which way? There we go. Okay, we have a resolution before us. The motion is to adopt the resolution. Is there a second?
Oh, second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I have to quit looking at my computer screen while you're doing that, Neely. You're making me seasick.
Always, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Ready for the next item?
yes.
Mr. Chairman, this next item, you'll be asked to consider a resolution to update the criteria for the regional water sustainability priority list. Again, you'll recall that this list, the purpose of this list is to guide the board's spending for large regional water projects. On October 26th in 2022, the board did adopt that criteria and utilized that criteria last year to add projects to the list. I think there's a desire to revisit that criteria. So staff discussed proposed updates to the existing criteria with the Finance Committee on March 21st. And the committee recommended that the updated criteria be considered for consideration by the board. And with that, I have the attached resolution for adoption, which we can come back to. But I do want to highlight the criteria right here that have been updated. And again, this is the clean version. The Finance Committee looked at the old and the new versions, both in clean version. The real major changes to this were eliminating some of the background and the history that we'd incorporated into this that no longer seemed that relevant. And then also tweaking the eligible projects language. And I do want to highlight this because there were some additional changes made since the Finance Committee looked at this. So eligible projects, the board defines an eligible project as any new project that helps achieve water sustainability on a regional basis. For purposes of this program, an eligible project does not include municipal drinking or wastewater systems. Projects that help resolve regional drinking water supply issues may be eligible on a case-by-case basis. So I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that language and that you're comfortable with it, and if you needed to discuss it before considering the resolution. And the other changes were fairly minimal, just cleaning up the considerations and condensing them for inclusion on the list. But with that, I would stand for any questions on the updated criteria or the resolution that I have prepared for you.
Okay, board members, any questions for Neely on the changes made to the criteria? Okay, don't see any. We have a resolution to adopt the amended criteria.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would move that we adopt the resolution. And once again, this was brought with the exception that Neely noted before the Finance Committee, and it was a recommendation of the full Finance Committee to send this forward to the board for adoption.
Okay, I have a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next.
Okay, the last item I have for you today, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, is to consider proposed terms and conditions for the New York Canal Rehabilitation Project. As you'll recall, this is one of the projects that you authorized funding for at the July meeting of last summer. The board authorized $25 million for the New York Canal Rehab Project, and it's sponsored by the Boise Board Control. And as you will recall, the board also directed staff to work with sponsors to develop terms and conditions. So staff has done that, and staff met with the Finance Committee on March 21 and discussed those terms and conditions. And attached to this memo, I have a resolution with terms and conditions for your consideration. So I'll scroll to the terms and conditions. And it's just a brief summary of the project. And the key components here are that we will execute a contract between the board and the Boise project. Funding awarded shall be dispersed in installments. The Boise project will be responsible for the remainder of the cost. Then we will, as requested, require progress reports, as well as some requirements for final invoicing. And then lastly here, project sponsors will comply with the board's standard contract terms and ARPA-related terms. And on that note, staff and legal believe this is ARPA eligible. And so we have included that in the resolution. You can see here, and now therefore be it further resolved, the board approves funding these projects using ARPA monies, and that it will contain certain ARPA funding contract provisions. With that, I would stand for any questions or discussion.
Any questions for Neely on the resolution? Okay.
Mr.
Brian.
Chairman, as Neely mentioned, staff and the Attorney General's office do believe this is eligible, but for ARPA funds, but the Attorney General's office has not officially completed their review of that eligibility. So we may want to add a line or approve the resolution pending completion of that review by the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, I think that would be a wise amendment to the resolution. Also, are these ARPA funding contract provisions and other specific terms and conditions, will they be an attachment to this resolution? I think I've seen somewhere in the board materials that list of requirements to be funded. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that'll be part of it, the package.
Correct.
Okay, with Mr. Patton's suggested amendment to the resolution, is there a motion to adopt the resolution as amended? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call. Okay, we'll do a roll call on the motion to adopt this resolution, if we could, please, Wesley.
Ms. Cole-Hansen?
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Olmstead?
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Benson?
Aye.
Chairman Raybould?
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Okay, that, I believe, completes the board business agenda items. The next item is the director's report. I'd like to welcome our director here with us today. Hopefully,
Mr.
his
Chairman.
voice is a little better.
It's doing better. I'm much improved today. Just a couple of items for you for this board meeting. The first one is just a couple comments on social media. I know that this is something that we've carried out at my request. The department's done a good job. Steve Stubner supporting staff. Jennifer Strange has been in the middle of that. Getting a process in place with policy that I think we're comfortable with for standing this up on the department side. You know, we are a state agency, so there is always policy and guidance and considerations. These are public records that we're creating with our social media account. There was some consternation regarding whether comments should be allowed associated with these social media channels. And, you know, looking at other agencies and consulting with the governor's office, there's pros and cons to having the comments, but really I think you're viewed more suspiciously if you don't have the comment channels in place. And so we decided to move forward with comments. We can always revisit that in the future if we want. There will undoubtedly be negative comments that we receive. But I think we would need to be very cautious about deleting any of those comments, even if we don't like them. So hopefully it's not a big issue, but it is something that we considered. We did get our policy reviewed, or at least legal participated in the development of that policy. And I know, at least regarding adjudication in Northern Idaho and perhaps in a few other venues, the public has been very critical with the department for only communicating through press releases and publications and newspapers. And I have personally been accused of being very old-fashioned in the way that the department communicates. This is an effort, hopefully, to meet some people here in Idaho in the spaces that they're more comfortable with receiving their news. I am working with Brian Patton and Shelley Keene and a couple of other managers to approve our comprehensive employee compensation plan that will be going out here hopefully sometime in April. We have also been reviewing the finances for the end of the year, and I'm happy to report that we're going to be able to maximize the merit-based bonus pool this year. And by statute, we can award merit-based bonuses to 20% of our staff. And we're also looking very aggressively at other bonus possibilities with staff in the department, including retention bonuses. So hopefully we'll have something to report back at the next board meeting around those accomplishments. Last topic I want to touch on just regards the delivery call proceedings on the Eastern Snake Plain. You've heard me report for 10 years at least on this subject. And it is obviously one of those areas of discontent in the water user community, and very much so for the last 2 or 3 years. And currently right now, I probably off the top of my head couldn't list all of the various litigated activities surrounding these delivery call proceedings that are ongoing. But a couple that I want to talk to you about include work that former SRBA Judge Roger Burdick is working on, and it has to do with whether the junior groundwater users breached their mitigation plans in 2022. And I appointed him to be the hearing officer on that. And he was asked to make some rulings regarding that breach on preliminary judgment. And he issued a decision, I believe, last week regarding some of those preliminary issues. And I've been through that. It's an interlocutory order at this point, so it doesn't take effect until he combines it with the pending decision that he still has to issue and submits it to me as a recommended order, at which point I have to either approve that recommended order or modify that recommended order. So nothing's final yet, but he did issue that order. And there were a couple of things in there that should give people pause regarding where we're heading in these delivery call proceedings in the upcoming season. And remember, we issued the first injury determination and curtailment letters regarding this delivery call proceeding in April. And then it continues into July, August, September through the irrigation season. And Justice Verdict found that and I'll emphasize the previous director, erred by not issuing an order specifying actions needed to cure the 2022 breach. And so the order, the mitigation plan, the agreement that the parties entered into said that if there's a breach, the parties need to come together and cure that breach. If they can't, then the director can determine a cure for that breach. But if he doesn't determine a cure for the breach, then he has to curtail, even though that breach occurred in the previous irrigation year. So Justice Burdick is saying that the director erred by not curtailing those groundwater users upon determining the breach because he did not, and the parties did not identify a cure. He also found that the 2009 mitigation plan, so IGWA has two mitigation plans that it has relied upon in the last couple of years to avoid curtailment. One was the 2009 mitigation plan. The other was their 2016 mitigation plan, which was the adoption of the settlement agreement. And Justice Burdick found that the 2009 mitigation plan cannot be used to cure defaults under the 2016 mitigation plan. And he further found that the 2016 mitigation plan effectively operates to rescind the 2009 mitigation plan. So that's a pretty significant finding and interpretation of the agreements that he's found there. So last year, there was an injury determination. It was a fairly small volume of water, and some of the groundwater districts chose to deliver storage water under the 2009 mitigation plan as opposed to complying with the 2016 mitigation plan. This decision, or reminding everyone that it's preliminary at this point, but this decision would preclude the groundwater districts from being able to do that this year. And the only safe harbor the groundwater districts would have this year would be under the mitigation to the 2016 mitigation plan. Now, we have that 2009 mitigation plan from IGWA. We have their 2016 mitigation plan. And I've also received, I believe, 7 new mitigation plans from various groundwater districts that comprise IGWA. And I have contracted with former Supreme Court Justice Gerald Schroeder to hopefully consolidate those, maybe not all of them, but most of them, and preside over the review and approval process of those mitigation plans. The parties have stayed the review of those mitigation plans pending Justice Burdick's decision. And again, that preliminary decision that he issued will become final probably sometime in April. I would suspect to see an order from him, perhaps early May. And then I guess at that point, the parties would request that Justice Schroeder move forward with the new mitigation plans. So perhaps the concern that I have is we're moving towards a determination of injury in April that might surprise people, that there will be one first, and I suspect that there will be an injury determination. Perhaps the magnitude of that injury determination will surprise people, given that we have full reservoirs and there's going to be, I suspect, ongoing flood control releases. Nevertheless, that methodology also determines injury based on the conditions of the aquifer. The aquifer continues to go down. So you can even have good water supply conditions, but the declining aquifer conditions and get these injury determinations. So we might be headed towards an injury determination, but find ourselves in this space where the mitigation plans that have been used the last few years to protect junior groundwater users are in question at this point. And so I do see a potentially, depending on where things head, a train wreck coming this year, which might be magnified by the fact that I think a lot of people think that we have pretty good water supply conditions, and perhaps we do, but what we don't have is good aquifer conditions, and that's what's going to be driving some of the decisions
or determinations, I should say, not decisions. So when we meet in May in Sandpoint, I'll be able to give you a lot more update on this. Perhaps it would be worth adding to the agenda a legal update from some of the attorneys directly participating in these proceedings as to where all the different elements of this delivery call are right now. I want to talk just a little bit also about Senate Bill 1341. This was the Senate bill that revised the area of common groundwater supply on the eastern Snake Plain, and the map that I asked Wes to pull up depicts some of the boundaries, the administrative boundaries that exist on the eastern Snake Plain, and there are a number of them. Senator Burtonshaw came to me in January and said that he wanted to bring some legislation that modified the current area of common groundwater supply, which has been in place since the mid-90s, because we know now that there are groundwater users outside that boundary that impact the river who aren't participating. And an original proposal was to go ridgetop to ridgetop and bring in all groundwater users that pump on the plain or in a tributary basin. But there was a lot of concern for that proposal for a number of reasons. I won't get into that. So the revised proposal and the one that became effective when the governor signed Senate Bill 1341 changed that boundary from the current boundary to the current model boundary. So the model boundary as modified in May of 2021. And that more or less represents our best understanding of the aerial extents of that aquifer. So there are now going to be water users come July 1 who have not previously been participating in this delivery call that I will send out notice to and work to bring them into the delivery call. You can imagine that they'll probably be surprised and upset by that change in status. But as I view the legislation, I'll have that requirement by July 1. And I've already begun meeting with staff to work on notices and how we're going to roll that out. The statute also allows for the director to bring in tributary basins. There's a set process on holding public information meetings and hearings in consideration of bringing them in. There's also some language that says if we have a groundwater management area or critical groundwater area designated already in the tributary basin, and they've already adopted a management plan that balances the water budgets in those basins, then they do not have to be brought in. And so I think of Big Wood River as an example of a place where we have that. And also in the Goose Creek and Oakley Fan area, we have plans like that. But you know, I have also asked staff to prepare a timeline, and I think it's probably a timeline that's in the 5 to 10 year perspective of how we will work to stand up water districts and all the tributary basins so that we're ready to consider bringing them in through the processes that have now been set forth by Senate Bill 1341. So between that Senate bill, some of the legal decisions that have been coming out and the likelihood that we're going to have an injury determination here in April at least, I anticipate that it's going to be a tumultuous start to the irrigation season. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for any questions.
Okay, Brian.
Mr. Chairman, Matt, the springtime measurement on the EPA wells, that started in April. And will that have any impact on your decision on management this spring?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Board Member Olmstead, I have been approving some travel authorization for folks to get out in the field and start that measurement. Remember that is typically data and information that's presented to the board through its Water Supply Committee in July. Is that the typical period that information is kind of finalized and presented? So I would expect we're on the same timeline this year. Now, the methodology order that determines injury in the surface water course and delivery call, it doesn't directly rely on any of the Sentinel well data that's collected. You know, that's of course very important to people who are members of that agreement. But certainly that's the information that we gather and evaluate to determine what that change in aquifer storage content has been over the last year.
Okay, any other questions for the director? Sounds like you're gonna have a busy spring. When will the methodology order come out? Do you think that'll be out in the first week or 10 days of April?
Yeah, so we send out an as-applied order applying the first 4 steps of the methodology order. And I think the order says something like within 2 weeks of the joint runoff forecast being issued by the Army Corps of Engineer and the Bureau of Reclamation. And they typically issue that within the first week of each month, January, February, March, April, and May. So, I would think middle to third week of April, that decision will go out.
Okay, follow up. Assuming that there is a determination under the methodology order that there is a shortfall, without having the 2009 mitigation plan to rely on, when do junior groundwater users find themselves out of compliance? Does that come later, or do they immediately have to remedy that shortfall or they would otherwise be curtailed?
That's a good question. I think the answer to that question right now is uncertain because aspects of that are being actively litigated in several different proceedings. In the past, when we had compliance with the mitigation plan that everyone agreed, everyone was in compliance, you delivered the 50,000 acre feet of storage water that was required under that mitigation plan at the time of need. But given now the uncertainty of some of the mitigation plans, I think that's a question that we will have to answer. What is the surety that we're going to need in demonstrating that you've acquired that water and that you can provide that water? And perhaps an even more fundamental question is under what mitigation plan will you be able to deliver that water to cure injury?
Okay, if the stay is lifted and Judge Schroeder is allowed to move forward to consider the applications for the new mitigation plans, that's a fairly lengthy timeline by the time you go through the entire process of hearings and protests and everything else, isn't it?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's a great point. Each of those mitigation plans have been protested by multiple entities. Unlike previous mitigation plan approval processes, groundwater districts have actually protested each other's mitigation plans. So it is going to be a lengthy process. Even without protest, we say it's a 2 to 3 month process to get your mitigation plan approved. Likely, this is going to be significantly longer than that.
Okay, like I said, going to be an interesting spring. Okay, anything else from the director? It looks like we're fairly satisfied. Wish you well with your endeavors. Okay, the next agenda item is non-action items. Do we have any? Brian? Pat? Dale? Joanne? Dean? Okay, Mark? I think there's a lot of people looking for that on-ramp to I-84.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I did ask Wesley to be prepared for just a brief recharge update since things seem to be.
Oh, that's a good idea. Before we get out of here, let's hear some good news on recharge.
It's a quick change. And I don't mean to take anything away from Wesley, but Jennifer.
I would just like to point out, I agree with that completely. And I'd also like to point out, just for clarification, that it's basically taken somewhere between 3 to 4 people to do what Jennifer does. Just to be clear on that. Okay, so what I'm sharing on the screen, I will make this very brief because I know people want to get out of here. As far as natural flow recharge, where we're at right now is 172,000 acre feet as of yesterday. Currently, we have a little over 1,500 CFS going in the upper valley and a little over 2,000 in the lower valley. There's a little off of the Big Wood, but that will probably end at the end of this month because our water right will be out of priority there. Our numbers are growing. This is, does not include the great feeder, which started for around 200 to 400. They plan on actually mapping that up. And our hope, well, actually, it's more than a hope. So in the lower valley, the AFRD2, the Gooding Canal has not been at capacity because of the Dam. Working with Northside, they were able to use the crosscut canal and actually flow some that way, and that was around 400 CFS. But we heard early this morning that they're looking at opening at least one of the gates on the Milner Gooding, because they were originally thinking sometime next week. So we're hoping by next week, the Milner Gooding will be at full capacity, which will probably add, we're doing 400, probably a good 1,000 CFS in Lower Valley. And we're still working on getting some people under the contract up in the upper. So that is very brief. I would stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions for Wes? Brian?
Chairman West, so with this, AFRD 2 gate opening, will they remove the copper dam on the north side of town?
Yes, well, actually, so my understanding, and of course, Neil Farmer knows this much better than I do, the coffer dam was actually on the Milner Gooding Canal, just to make sure it flowed the right direction there. That's my understanding, but yes, all of that would have to be moved before they really open those gates.
Okay, any other questions? We're off to a good start.
It started really slow, it's picked up.
Well, an unexpected surprise.
Yes, absolutely.
Dean?
Question. Any idea how long this, our water rights are gonna be in priority? I mean, I know that's, you don't know the answer to that, but it looks like if it stays cool for a while, then we could.
It's probably gonna be pretty good. I apologize, this is off the top of my head. The last plan that I heard from the Bureau of Reclamation is, well, actually as of, I believe the 28th, they were ramping up to around 5,000 CFS out of Minidoka. And what they originally said was mid-April of that number being around 10,000. So given that, there's a really good chance that ours will run out quite a while. But obviously it depends a lot on irrigation. And exactly what you said, it's cool, it's wet. I think there's gonna be a lot of need, but we also know Mother Nature can change quickly.
Okay, that's all good news. Some optimistic souls said they thought recharge could continue, with limitation on capacity into mid-May or even longer. So that the spill wouldn't stop at Milner for quite some time. So I guess we'll see.
We'll see. And obviously when irrigation turns out, that's really gonna cut down our capacity. But still, we'll milk it for all that we possibly can.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Wes. Appreciate you keeping on top of that. Okay, I think with that, we are to that motion that Dale's been waiting to make since he got here this morning.
I'll say more, that'll be adjourned.
Okay, is there a second? Yeah.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are out of here. Thank you, one and all. I know it takes a lot of effort to get here and spend a couple of days, but I